Creeping Frost is a fantastic build for beginners of Path of Exile that is not as highly rated as some more fancy modern builds, because Creeping Frost has been around for ages. Yet, I believe it deserves your attention, my friends, and today we're going to be comparing it to another very popular build of Arc Witch. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. My name is Gyro. If you're new here, this is a build in progress, yet another one for absolute beginners of Path of Exile. This is going to be an unscripted video, so please use the chapters in the timeline of the video and the description below as always, and I'm going to also throw them on the screen right now as to what I'm planning to talk to you about today in this very quickly put together video about Creeping Frost build. What is so good about Creeping Frost, and why do I think that it's even easier, yet as potent, as awesome as, let's say, Arc Witch? Creeping Frost fires an icy projectile, and that icy projectile bursts into a chilling area that deals cold damage over time. That's about it. The cool part of this is that the chill over time area kind of creeps on the ground, across the ground towards the nearby enemies while it's active. Arc is popular because it fires a lightning that chains through the enemies and kind of kills everything before it kills you. The spirit of Arc Witch is kill them before they get to you. And the Arc Witch builds which I have on my channel, you're most welcome to take a look at the previous league, Ultimatum 3.14, and between 3.14 and 3.15 Arc Witch hasn't changed much, so you probably can still use my old guide if that's what interests you. Why do I think that Creeping Frost is easier, safer, and in the same league as the Arc Witch builds? Because you also build your character around one particular skill, Creeping Frost in this case. You shoot Creeping Frost at enemies, it freezes them in place, and as opposed to the Arc as a lightning skill, this is a Frost, a cold based skill, so it comes with a whole bunch of very helpful semi-passive defensive features, such as slowing down enemies and just freezing them. And you get that passive defensive layer, if you like, that Arc does not give you. So I think that for absolute beginner, Creeping Frost is easier, arguably easier and safer to travel around with than Arc Witch. Creeping Frost, you get it very early on. I believe you get it for discovering Merveil's caverns in Act 1, or maybe even before that as a quest reward for one of the early quests in the game. You get that ability and you will start using it straight away. Before you get Creeping Frost, however, I probably would suggest that you still go with something cold based and you pick up Frozen Pulse. And once you get Creeping Frost, you just switch to Creeping Frost. As with any builds that are revolving around one particular element, which in this case is cold, you are susceptible to situations where you will meet bosses and enemies that are simply immune to cold or highly resistant to cold. So it is needless to say that in your best interest it is to have something else in your arsenal that is going to work with an element of the different type, let's say fire. While the build is around one single skill, Creeping Frost, there is still a second one present here, and in my particular case it will be Flame Wall. Gear and gems. I am lucky enough to have Tabula Rasa, the simple robe with no stats on it, but 6 sockets, and they are linked sockets, so I can use my Creeping Frost and boost it with all sorts of support straight away. I'm supporting Creeping Frost with Arcane Surge support because it's really good. It's a generally very good support gem that you get as a very first support gem in the whole game as a witch. When you start leveling, it's being given to you for free. I also have Summon Phantasm support. I know it sounds like a meme in this particular case because it's not a minion build, so please hear me out. Phantasms are doing damage, of course they do, but they are not contributing to maybe as much of a damage output if you compare that to the sheer output of damage through cold damage of Creeping Frost. They are running interference while giving you tactical positioning, maneuvering options. That's all. And plus, you know, early in the game, while you don't have highly leveled up gems and you are not putting out all that much damage, Phantasms are going to help you basically level up a little bit faster, especially in the early game. Then I'm having lesser multiple projectile support. I think it serves a good purpose of spreading, of shooting multiple projectiles as opposed to one projectile with a single shot. And it's spreading the cold areas around. 3 projectiles, naturally, a lot more ground is being covered. Efficacy support boosts damage over time. And it also increases the duration, so how long these areas are lingering on the ground. So that's very good too. And finally, I'm using faster casting. As I already mentioned to you, I am also using Flame Wall. You absolutely do not need Nycta's Lantern Crystal Scepter for this. I'm just lucky enough to have Nycta's Lantern in my arsenal. Flame Wall is also supported by efficacy support for exactly the same reason, because it's an AoE and it increases the damage over time. And it has increased area of effect support for the obvious reason of covering more space. Increased area of effect support absolutely can go into Tabula Rasa, into your main set of gems supporting Creeping Frost, instead of, let's say, Phantasms. I am leveling Eye of Winter, and I will be talking to you in the next video probably about the same type of evolution possibly of this build, which will talk about the new spell that was added in 3.15 Expedition League, Eye of Winter. It's interesting, but at the moment in this particular build, yes, I experimented with it, I can tell you that Creeping Frost simply does a better job. For movement, I'm using Flame Dash, which is one of the best, if not the best movement skill in the game, in my humble opinion. I am supporting, so it's all in the same cluster here, because this is one of those little beginner-friendly builds rather than optimized endgame builds. I'm using Control Destruction support to boost Eye of Winter in this particular case, as I used it occasionally. And Combustion support was simply the gem that kind of came my way, and I simply decided to plug it in here because it provides some extra fire damage and chance to ignite, even though it's a cold-based build. So please do not judge me very harshly for this completely useless thing here, all in all. I am always using Cast When Damage Taken support to support my skinny builds, and Witch is a very skinny build. You will die from some single shots. But in this particular case, it will also save your skin many times, because Cast When Damage Taken is going to proc the Immortal Call. Immortal Call will reduce the damage taken by quarter, by 25 to 26%, which is fantastic. Additionally to that, I'm also triggering the Arcane Cloak, which gives you a little bit of a damage barrier at the cost of your mana. I am also lucky enough to have this Hypnotic Call Rare Shield, which, as you can see, increases cold damage massively. I'm just very lucky with the 64% roll here. As you can see, it's not enchanted in any shape or form, it's not an optimized build just yet, but it just gives you an idea of what I'm investing into. And in this case, I'm also having a Cast When Stunned support, because stuns, being frozen, being stunned, means death, means absolutely death. And in this particular case, it gives you a tiny extra chance to survive. If something stuns you, it procs another instance of an Arcane Cloak, in this particular case, which will take damage before it actually reaches you. So this is just my extra attempt to survive. There are Occultist Creeping Frost builds for Witch Ascendancies, but I am using a more basic Elementalist version that does rely on the golems not to do damage themselves, even though they try to help those little buddies running around there, but golems simply, as you will see from the passive skill tree and from the Ascendancy description, they're simply increasing your own damage. So having them out, especially 2 of them, increases damage of your primary ability and any other ability such as Creeping Frost. I would also like to just simply point you, as always, to the description of this video, where you will have the full Path of Building POB link that you will be able to click on, and it will take you to either a web interface that will allow you to explore this whole big passive skill tree at your own leisure, in your own time, or a paste bin that you can cut and paste the whole build and paste it into the community fork. We're starting as a witch. We are taking Arcanist Dominion as an inevitable kind of node. We take most important nodes such as Heart and Soul. We're increasing the size of our mana pool, essentially, and we're increasing our damage and energy shield. These are 3 things that we're going for. Mana pool, energy shield, spell damage, wherever we can. That's basically it. You can follow, as I said, either what you see on the screen very briefly here, screen grab and follow this, or you can take a look at the Path of Building link in the description. One very important defensive note that I always take as a witch is Mind Over Matter. 30% of damage that you take will be taken from mana before life. That will save your life substantially, especially as your mana pool grows and it's not as tiny as it is in the beginning. And that's kind of all there is to say, other than that we are obviously boosting our cold damage because it's a cold based build. So straight away here we take Frost Walker and we go towards this cluster at the top with Breath of Rime and with Heart of Ice. All of this stuff is highly beneficial to you to boost Creeping Frost damage naturally. And as I mentioned to you, because we are an Elementalist as opposed to Occultist Ascendancy that we'll talk about in a second, I am relying on golems to boost my damage a little bit further. So Golem Commander is a very important node that allows you to, first of all, increases the effect of those buffs. And as you know, the fire golems that I'm running, they are giving me extra damage. So this increases the buffs, and it also allows me to have one extra summoned golem, which is really handy. With that being said, with that being out of the way, let's take a look at the Ascendancy. And yes, I'm yet to have a second run through the Labyrinth, and I am planning to obviously have at least a third one. First run that I've already done, as you can see, inevitably I've taken Shaper of Winter as an Elementalist Ascendancy to make sure that all of my hits are chilling, to make sure that there is more of an effect on Call of Cold ailments, which is mainly freezing and slowing enemies down. Massive contribution to your survivability. Second go, I am going to most likely, I'm going to take Bastion of Elements. I know this is slightly unusual, but hear me out. I think that as a skinny witch, as far as my damage output, I'm actually fairly happy with the damage output of Creeping Frost that I'm getting right now so far in the not optimized build. But Bastion of Elements is going to give me the passive effect of the Primal Aegis, which basically gives us the absorption shield of 75 points per notable passive skill in the tree that you've taken. It's a massive contribution to your survivability, which is very important as you approach endgame. Third go through the Labyrinth absolutely will go towards boosting our golems. Liege of the Primordial is giving you an opportunity to have extra summoned golem, which yet again boosts the amount of damage you're getting from golems, contribution to your damage, so that's fantastic. And also this skill is going to passively resummon the golems if they get killed, and they get killed fairly often because they are skinny little creatures running around with you. Increases the buffs, increases damage drastically basically. And if you're gonna go hardcore, my friend, well, not very hardcore, I'm just kind of saying it tongue-in-cheek here, and you go through the Labyrinth the fourth time, then you would absolutely take Elemancer, because golems will become immune to elemental damage, you will have increased effect of buffs, you will have more golems, and you will just be running around all surrounded by golems and freezing everything. I really enjoy this build. I think it is safer to play than Arc Witch, let's say, and I think that, as I said from the beginning, I think Creeping Frost build is in the same league as Arc Witch build, meaning comparable. They are really comparable. They are both basic, they are both very easy, and in this particular case I even made this witch Elemancer, so not Elemancer but Elementalist Ascendancy as opposed to Occultist Ascendancy, so it's even more so comparable to an Arc Witch lightning damage based build. Hopefully this gives you some ideas, goals, maybe a vector, because it's a build in progress obviously, but fairly developed. It gives you a vector for development of the build for yourselves. Hopefully you will give Creeping Frost a go. I do enjoy the skill, I do enjoy the gameplay, and hopefully you will too. If you do, please like the video. Please like the video to counteract any of the negativity that elitists always bother to spill out onto my little channel. I do not know why, but I really appreciate any support and any positivity that my people bring. And that also helps me bring more positive, good content to you, my friends. So please do not be shy, do not be lazy, and click that like button. It counts for a lot. And subscribe to the channel not to miss out on any of the further videos. And I'll be speaking with you again about something else Path of Exile related, absolutely no doubt, next week. See you later. Bye for now.